Nicole, it is race week.
That, I can never get sick of saying that.
I know. I'm really excited to have meaningful track sessions. But this past week, we had preseason testing. And I thought we'd bring back a segment we did in episode 1 of the podcast. Feel free to go back and listen because it actually is relatively evergreen, where we played Taboo. And if you've never heard of Taboo before, the idea is you have to describe something, or in the real game, you have to get the other person to guess something, but without using some crucial words that describe that thing. And the first time we did this, Nicole challenged me to discuss Pirelli tire testing without using words like tires. So there's a couple of big headlines I pulled from preseason testing that I would like to discuss, but I think this time both of us have to play Taboo. So Nicole doesn't get to sit there and just laugh at me as I mess up.
In on the fun, and I'm gonna be so bad at this. Briana's gonna be blowing that whistle. Like, hey, remember episode 1? Like, yep, here we go.
All right. So here are the words that selected that we can't say when discussing all the headlines from preseason testing going into the first race of the season. We cannot say the word test going forward, post-explanation.
Of course.
We can't say the word tire, time, fast, or slow. So genuinely, this is just an explanation, or this is a challenge to see how can we describe teams without just screaming, they're fast.
Or they're slow.
They're slow. We're really going to have to challenge the way we describe things in F1.
Bust open that thesaurus and start thinking of really creative ways to say these words, but I'm excited because I like playing games.
Yeah. If one of us messes up, you'll hear a... All right, so I think the biggest headline to come from preseason testing is the Aston Martin hype. It has gone from, there's some people who are like, yep, they're going to be the 5th fastest team, which is a huge step up from being the 6th or 7th fastest team over the course of the season. And then there are people screaming about how Aston Martin is going to jump Ferrari and Mercedes and Alpine and McLaren and be the 2nd fastest team and compete with Red Bull. Now, those are the two...
You said fast.
It's the intro, but that's fair.
I missed a couple in episode 1, which was pointed out to me by lovely viewers. Thank you. Love you so much. And so I will be extra on it this time.
Nicole's not actually going to listen to the words I'm saying, except for the words. She's not going to hear... If at any point there's a random jump cut in here, it's probably because Nicole goes, oh, I wasn't listening for anything other than if you said the words.
No, I will be very listening. I am ready to talk about Aston Martin, and especially... trying to think. Yes, there was a lot of shakeup in headlines because of Alonso's P2, end of sentence. Definitely made things really spicy, and it was not a sloth speed lap. So it definitely got people talking. So, is the Aston Martin hype actually going to happen this year?
I think the scariest part, scary as a fan of predominantly Lewis Hamilton, so another team, wasn't actually the P2, which was definitely a glory run on day 1. Other people weren't putting in fastest laps. It was their long runs on day 3. The pace that they... I almost said all the words at once.
This is taboo. Yep.
The pace that they were able to get out of the car lap after lap on their race sim was definitely better than what we've seen from the Ferrari, at least. And I I do think they're going to make a jump. But I think there's too many other factors from other teams. Because testing, you can't... Yes. It's really hard to, in my opinion, compare team to team when it comes to lap time. And I really think, I gotta blow the whistle on myself.
I don't know that we didn't say we could cut this out, but
I said time.
Oh, you said time. I heard you say lap, and I was like, no, we could say that. I'm already messing
I lost my train of thought because I just
team to team.
Panicked. Oh, it's really hard to compare the pace from team to team. But I do think we can look at things like how easy that car was to handle for Fernando and how their laps are consistent across a stint. So I don't think the people who are saying that right now, convincingly, Aston is going to be the ones competing with Red Bull, I think that's a little too far. We're in year 2 of a regulation set. Normally the field spread, at best, doesn't get worse. Like, if anything, it normally widens between the top team and the worst team. Jumping from P7 to P2 would be the greatest jump in a second year of a regulation set of F1's history. It is unprecedented. And so I can't, even if that is what we're seeing on track, and that is what sometimes my eyes were telling me when I was looking at the data, I can't buy into it, because I just can't believe in something that absurd.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did not have Lance, this weekend, and for our viewers online, Parker has come to make a guest appearance because he just wanted to snuggle. But we unfortunately did not get Lance info this weekend. We did, I guess, get some information from Felipe, but I feel like it's not going to be, a good tell of what to expect from Aston Martin this season. I think what we did expect was towards the end of the season, they were able to be more consistent and more reliable, and surprise, that probably will see more of this season. But I do not think that means they, like you said, competing with Red Bull, especially because Red Bull is flyingly quick.
I knew, to the listening audience, I knew as soon as I put the word fast in the taboo list, because Nicole's favorite thing, even like outside the pod, is to just scream fast. So, but if you're watching, you can see her face struggle to panic as she panics.
I think we will see more Aston Martin like race moments. I think we'll have it be a little bit more interesting, and they will be more reliable in coming races, and it'll be great to see what upgrades that they come with. But I do not think that we suddenly have like the car sent from heaven putting in times that are like unbelievably fast.
I'll point out that the Aston...
Your 2 words. I'm blowing the whistle on myself twice. I said time and fast.
I'm not as good at pressing the button. I just get too excited about our conversation. I will point out that the Aston is the most visually unique and different car for this year. This is the first year that their new technical director, Dan Fellows, this is his car. Last year, the B-spec they brought was their last-minute panic when he came on after gardening leave and was like, no, this is not the direction we want to go. And so I do think they will make a jump. I just, like, the way... I think sometimes we talk too much in F1 about development as if Red Bull is standing still, or the top teams are standing still. So everyone is on a development curve. And for a team that is behind, and this applies to every team, a team that's behind, they have to develop at a faster rate than Red Bull is developed. They have to develop at a quicker rate than Red Bull is developing in order to close the gap. And that is why the team that comes into a regulation set with a head start keeps that advantage for a long time, because They just need to develop at the same rate as everyone else, and everyone else needs to develop quicker.
Speedier.
Speedier.
Right. Red Bull obviously already had a lot of things figured out. So, updates, anything. They're already working on a winning package. Therefore, any improvements, it goes quicker. Like, it maybe. And of course, any changes, you're always risking it not causing improvement. But that's not what we saw this weekend. So it was, again, yeah, Red Bull knew what they were doing, showed up, and left.
Red Bull won the championship so early. Not even the official win, but they wrapped it up basically a couple weeks before that. So we knew at the end of last year that Red Bull had a ton of developments that they just chose not to bring to the car because there was no point. So not only did Red Bull get it right last year and have a head start, but they got to spend the second half of last year completely just working on what they were going to bring for this year's car.
Be super budget focused. Save those upgrades for next year.
Yeah. Which leads me to the second major headline from testing, which is, yeah, that Red Bull's just faster. Yeah, that Red Bull is just going to dominate the field. No one at least came to testing even close. So
testing.
Nicole, I will ask you, will anyone compete with Red Bull? We're just going to look at the first third of the season. Do you think anyone's going to compete?
I can answer this two ways. I can answer this with my hopeful, I'm a fan of sport, and I believe that people can make... Yeah, hope alarm, right. I can do that, and I can talk about how I just believe that Mercedes is going to bring upgrades, and it's just going to be like the craziest thing we've ever seen. However, I am trying to go into this season being the most realistic that I can, and Red Bull is setting... Red Bull, it just already looks so ahead of the entire grid that it just does not... In the near future, I think it'll be a very interesting second half of the season. But right now, they seem so just ahead of everyone. And they showed up to testing and they didn't flinch. This weekend, they were just like, here we are. We're going to show up. Max is going to do his 2 days. And they're like, yeah, we know what we're coming in with. And they, as every other team, seem to have slight issues or things to discuss. Red Bull did it. They were top of the... trying to not use words, top of all of the collective seconds of driving in circles.
That was impressive. That was good.
And it just never seemed like anyone was getting crazy close. And even, if you want to talk about miracle laps or anything, when people do get close, it's not a accurate depiction of their continued race pace.
Nice.
Couldn't remember if we could say pace. That's a good one we should do.
So you definitely gave the most accurate assessment. But if someone out there is wanting to feel hopeful, here are the things that are actually in the data that can give you hope. Because I'm sure there's many people being like, yeah, that's done. So I'll start with, of the three big teams, Red Bull was the only team to use the correct downforce level on their wing for this specific circuit. They were using their medium downforce wing, Mercedes was using their high downforce, and Ferrari was using their low. What this means is Red Bull's setup for all of the laps they were doing was correct for this circuit, which means that Mercedes and Ferrari will bring their correct spec wings to the actual GP this weekend. They were both all the teams use the setup in testing that is going to help them that is going to help them correlate their data to what they're seeing the best. And they're trying to set up the car for the entire year, not just for the Bahrain GP. So that's thing one. Thing two is that it does seem Ferrari is notorious for wanting to get the flashy headlines in this time of the year. I was trying to not say test.
And you said time.
And it seems like for the first time in their... Hold on myself. It seems like Ferrari didn't do that this year, if we're to believe what they're saying. Which means that I am relatively confident that we're going to go into at least the first stretch of the year, and I think we're going to have a similar situation where Ferrari is at least competitive in quality. Now, will they be able to convert that to wins because their race pace doesn't look great? I don't know yet, but I'm here to give you hope. So, Red Bull was the only team set up correctly for the circuit they were running laps at. And Ferrari's quality pace still looks impressive. The other third thing that should give you hope is that the entire time Mercedes kept saying that they're hiding something and that they already have a huge upgrade package coming by race 6. I think it's going to come at Imola. So even if they're not competitive immediately, they seem relatively confident that whatever they're going to bring for Imola is going to help close that gap. So there are some tidbits that are actually accurate in the data. I'm not totally grasping at straws here. If anyone wants to go into this feeling hopeful that it's not going to be a Red Bull slaughter.
I just feel like it is, but we love hope. And as we've discussed, and as if you've seen on our TikTok, Briana dives into some rubber wheel degradation when it comes to Ferrari. And it doesn't necessarily seem like that issue has been fixed. So sick, love your quality time, but great for quali. We need that consistency. We need you to be reliable. We need you to show up and stay out and not melt away.
I think the last big headline is, what in the world is going on with McLaren and Alpine? I think we need to, collectively as an F1 community, probably start having a bigger discussion about how maybe we shouldn't keep putting McLaren in the ability to compete for championships bucket. This is the second year in a row that they've just been unable to participate in these preseason lap runs. And
I'm holding back all of my McLaren comments. I need more evidence. But
it's just
stretches in Daniel Ricciardo and just says, things could be interesting.
Yeah. I would say be worried about McLaren. An inability to run laps for most of the 3 days is bad. There is some fundamental structural issues, and everyone on that team is saying that things are bad. And normally when an F1 team comes out and is aggressively saying that things are bad, we should believe them, in my personal opinion. Not, we have something else in the tank. That's not saying things are bad. McLaren is genuinely saying, we are not going to be good.
Right,
believe
right.
them.
I started to get kind of, and I think it was from the McLaren press, the agita of, as Mercedes is talking about, we have upgrades to bring. My brain has just been in such the mindset of, that's immediately what McLaren's been saying. And McLaren is visually, and now we've seen via VCAR, not super jazzed and confident this year. So there's obviously just bigger internal issues. They're saying a lot of the things that you never want to hear a team be saying, and their drivers seem frustrated. It'll be interesting to see Oscar in an actual race and kind of getting some seconds and minutes of him driving in an actual race to kind of start getting some more data there. But yeah, it looks right now is not looking great for the Papayas. And I feel a little smug about it, and I want to be like, haha, but I'm not going to jump on that train just yet. It's way too early.
I'll say I think Alpine's fine. They're not panicking to the press. So Alpine didn't have a great showing based on what they put on the timesheets, but if they still seem decently confident, and Alpine will have to prove to me that they're going to take a step back this year, and nothing they did in the test. While they didn't do anything flashy, they ran their laps, they said they completed all their programs, and everything was expected. So, right. Not worried. McLaren, you should be worried.
No red flags. There was no unbelievably, this can't be fixed right away, or no one seemed really tense, and it didn't seem that Alpine was doing damage control in the press like, a lot of other teams do. And even no matter how Ferrari or Mercedes was performing in testing, how they performed this weekend, there's always going to be some type of, well, what about this? Or finding the bad. Alpine kind of falls into that place that unless they come out and acknowledge it. But so I think them saying that they ran everything that they wanted to and was able to practice everything that they wanted to during this, then right now I'm like, okay, we'll wait and see race-wise where that goes.
I would still predict Alpine to be top of the midfield, probably competing with Aston. And based on only the information we are given right now, I agree that McLaren will slide back at least behind those two, if not more early on. So
was my hot take of the season. My hot take was from a very bitter place, but just inklings in my gut of McLaren's going to be opposite of quick. And right now, kind of feels good to be right. But I wanted to give a big thank you to VoiceOver Man and our four-legged producers. Make sure you are turning on auto downloads and that you rate and review the pod after listening. You have no idea how much this helps us out. Lights Out is this weekend. So, hey, Apple Podcast listeners, help us out with our goal of getting 5 reviews by Bahrain, which is this weekend. So please let us know what you like, what you love, what you'd love to see us try out and maybe do. If you have a segment idea, we'd absolutely love to hear it. Follow us on every single social media platform. Maybe you prefer one over the other. Doesn't matter. We are at Gridwalk Show everywhere, offering you some daily grid walks. And we'll be back every Thursday, and we hope you join us. Today was like an entire grid race and not a grid walk.